to those of you on Zoom, thank you, and Facebook, thank you so much for joining us for our first installment of the Educate and Elevate virtual workshop series. Today, we are going to be having a conversation on financial literacy and wellness. I feel that it's just something that we can never talk too much about. There's so much that we need to know, and there is so much that's always changing as it pertains to how we can improve our finances and get ahead. And so I would like to welcome you. My name is Kiera Potts. I will be your host for this evening, and I have the pleasure of serving as the founder and the president for the Potts Foundation. The purpose of the Educate and Elevate workshop series is really just our way to fulfill a tangible need and passing along information. We go through different topics that we find are beneficial for college students and for high school students and their parents. And we host different workshops and discussions on those to help get the information to you in whatever way that we can. And so I would thank you for joining. If you are watching on Facebook, I just ask that you take a quick moment to hit that share button. And then if there's somebody that you know that needs to have this information, that you go ahead and tag them or share it with them as well. I feel that it would be inconsiderate of me also not to just take a moment to acknowledge the families who lost their loved ones in the tragedy that took place with the plane crash recently. So before we get started, I'd just like to take a brief moment of silence on their behalf to honor their. Thank you guys. And so before we get started, Jasmine, I would love to give the floor to you so that you can introduce yourself and to tell us who you are and what you represent and about your business.
Absolutely. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jasmine Young. I am a certified public accountant and a certified fraud examiner. I started my own firm, my CPA firm, which is Southern Heritage Financial Group, where we provide accounting solutions to individuals and businesses. That includes tax return preparation, tax planning, tax resolution, payroll, business formation, attestation services, which is your audit, your reviews, and your compilations, as well as personal financial coaching services. We do that through my CPA firm, which is a for-profit organization. However, we also provide these exact same services as well as speaking engagements, workshops, through our nonprofit organization, which is the Financial Literacy Institute, where we specialize in providing educational courses, resources, and information to underserved and underprivileged communities, i.e., Black and Brown people of color. I am an Alabama native. I went to school with Kiera, went to Alabama A&M University, graduated in the class of 2013, but I went on to get my master's at the University of Arkansas at Grantham, and I pursued my certified public accounting licensure, where I'm currently licensed in the state of Georgia with reciprocity in many other states, including Alabama. So I love what I do. I'm a numbers person. I'm affectionately known as your family CPA because my job and my purpose and mission and passion is to provide financial literacy to families across the globe, one family at a time.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
You're
We
welcome.
beyond ecstatic to have you. I don't know, and I still like I want to say thank you for reminding me to call on you because when I was thinking through, I was like, who can I ask that I have not asked before to be a part of this conversation? And there you were. So thank you for bringing that to
Course. I'm
my
not the most popular person, but I love what I do in any way that I can help. I'm always willing to jump in.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate it. So, as we prepare to get started, I want to really just start with the basics. I know that as it pertains to Black and Brown people, we are not always good with some of the things that are simple, like starting a bank account. We don't always take full advantage of what that looks like and or even consider how we can use something as simple as a bank account or a savings account to work in our favor. So for those who may I guess struggle with the concept of getting a bank account, what do you say the biggest purpose is in just starting one?
So I would say this: the purpose of a bank account is one to have an electronic means and access to your money. Of course, in the Stone Ages, they did not have bank accounts, so they would keep money on them on their person or in safes at home. Whereas with using a bank account, you have a online visual of your money at all times. The difference between having a bank account and keeping the money on you on your person or keeping it at home in a safe is that the money that you actually have in the bank is insured, meaning that in the event that the market crashes or something drastic happens, the Federal Deposit Insurance Company insures your money and they basically ensure that your money is safe and that you will get your money out of the bank. You're able to get your money out of the bank. That insurance does not exist when you have that money on your person or at home. So that's
Right.
the biggest thing. Having a bank account, contrary to popular belief, is actually protection of your money. So that's one of the biggest things I would say that people aren't aware of about getting a bank account versus not having a bank account. Just to be honest, I come from two sets of baby boomers, and my dad did not like the fact of having to receive his money by direct deposit. And to this day, every Friday, once he gets paid, he's going to get that
Like
money out of
all oof.
he's going to get it. But he's starting to learn that okay, you don't have to take all of it out. I understand if
Mhm.
you wanted to have some cash on you at home in a safe, totally fine. But just know that your bank being in a actual bank account with a banking institution, it is insured.
Yeah. I think that's important for people to know. I don't
Absolutely.
I don't think about the benefits of the FDIC. I mean, I know that it's there, but it's never been explained like the purpose of it being there. So thank you for adding in that little tidbit. So we
Of
know
course.
that a benefit of having our money in a bank account is we can see it virtually no matter where we are. We can kind of see where we stand financially and that it's insured. What would you say another benefit of having a bank account is?
I would say another benefit of having an account is you have the ability to draw interest on your money. Whereas at home, your money that's sitting in your safe is just sitting there. It's not making you any money.
Right.
However, if you have money in a bank, depending on what type of bank account you have the ability to use your money to make more money.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So as we are going through everything too, I also want to just throw this out there that if you have any questions about anything, whether you are on Facebook or in Zoom, feel free to ask them because we are here for you. We want you to have the knowledge and we want you to get your questions answered if you have any. So if there's something that we don't talk about that you want to know about, just ask. That's what we're here for. When it comes to making a decision on where what you're going what bank I'll say you will start an account with, what are some key things that would be important to look for because you have different banks that have different fees they implement depending on what type of account that you create. So what would be some key factors to consider before enrolling in a new account?
So I would say one of the biggest things is you want to make sure you want to check into what the monthly fees are associated with opening an account with that bank. Some banks have no fee checking account, meaning you don't have to have a minimum balance in order to not incur a fee. Whereas there are other banks that say, hey, if you don't have a minimum of $2,000 in your bank account every month, we charge a X amount dollar fee. That would be the first thing that I would check into. Also, I would check into to see what other benefits come from having that checking account with that specific institution. For example, there are some institutions they offer you a bank account, but if you open a bank account with them, they also allow you to open a savings account or a high yield savings account, or they may be able to offer you what's called a certificate of deposit, or they may have other online features that you can use with your bank account, such as budgeting features, credit features, and things of that nature. So I
Mhm.
would be looking specifically to see, one, what is the fee, monthly fee associated with opening a checking account with that specific bank, and then two, what other benefits come with having a checking account with them.
We have a question that says, what are the differences between having an account at a credit union or a traditional bank?
That is a great question, and it's a question that I get all the time. So, and the answer is actually embedded within the title of the bank. You have a regular bank and you have a credit union. Regular banks are owned by corporations, meaning they are in the business to make money, bottom line. However, with your credit unions are actually owned by the people who have accounts with them. So
Mm,
any money that is made with a credit union is actually split among its members through dividends.
mm,
So your rate, if you're looking to purchase a home or purchase a car or finance anything, your interest rates are always going to be better with a credit union than they are with a commercial bank, simply because the credit union is there for the purpose of the members and not the purpose of outside owners like corporations that run our commercial banks like Regions, Chase, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America. Yeah.
that's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a good one. I had no idea.
Yes, it is actually true, and I always tell people, go with a credit union if you're looking for finance, and go with a credit union if you have that opportunity. But also, too, if you're not looking for financing, it's always good to both have a relationship with a commercial bank and with a credit union, so that in the event that you decide that you want to engage in some type of financing, you are able to compare the rates between a credit union and a commercial bank.
Definitely, because we're not gonna
Yep.
talk about different bank accounts I have, but I do have one with two credit unions and a commercial bank, just to always have access to my funds and to split them up, because we all got trust issues in this world. Um,
Exactly.
but so you mentioned to look for a bank account at.
Did we lose Pops?
I think we did.
Okay.
I think she's kind of frozen.
Okay, give me 1 second and we'll go ahead and keep things going here. Give me
Okay.
1 second.
Okay.
Oh, she's back now. Okay.
Oh, we good? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Oh, Lord Jesus. I think my internet went out, but we're still rocking and rolling. Um, did you hear my last question?
I did not.
Man. Okay. So we were talking about, you mentioned having a budget, well,
Mhm.
finding bank accounts that talk about budgets. And so with that, my question was, what is a budget? And how do you, what are some steps that need to be taken in order to properly establish one?
So the biggest thing about a budget is this. Bottom line up front, a budget is nothing but a plan to tell your money where to go. A lot of people have this negative connotation of, oh, budget, that means it's a bad thing. And I want to debunk that myth today and let you know that even the most lucrative, richest people, they operate off of budgets. So I don't want you to think, oh, if I'm on a budget, that means I'm broke. Absolutely not. The richest of the rich actually operate on a budget. But when you are setting up a budget, there's a few things that you need to consider. Number one, you need to figure out what your financial goals are. What is it that you want to accomplish with this budget? Are you wanting to save more? Are you wanting to pay off debt? What are you looking to accomplish with this budget? The second thing you need to do is you need to determine what are your essential and non-essential expenses. Essential expenses are what's going to be those things that you cannot live without, that you have to pay for, that are detrimental to your existence, such as, money paid for rent or your mortgage, lights, water, gas, your car insurance, life insurance. Those things are essential to your being and whether or not you are surviving as a person. But your non-essential expenses would be your hair appointments, your nail appointments, your haircuts, things of that nature. You're going to get massages, brunch. I'm in Atlanta, so they love brunch here. Brunch, outings, things of that nature. You have to decide to you what is important. And I can always tell people whenever we are working with someone for personal financial coaching, the first thing I tell them is, you can tell me what's important to you, but when I look at your bank statements, I'm going to know what's important to you. I'm going to know what's essential to you and what's not. Your money will always tell the story. I always tell people I'm a numbers person. Numbers don't lie, people do. Okay? So if I want to know what's important to you, I'm going to be able to look at your bank statements for the past 3 months and tell you what's important to you and what's not important to you, regardless of what you tell me is important to you and what's not important to you. So I would say that's the biggest part of setting a budget, is really figuring out what is really important and what's not important. And everybody's essential and non-essential things are different. You don't want to get in the mindset of, oh my gosh, I'm doing a budget wrong. Budgeting is a trial and error experience. No month will be the same. So I don't want you to feel like, oh my God, I'm doing this wrong. I can't be doing this right, so I'm just going to forget it. That is not the case. Budgeting is trial and error every single month, or however, whatever frequency you're doing your budgeting. I'm a CPA, and I'll tell you now, budgeting is still trial and error for me. There are some months where I know exactly what my business's operating expenses are, and there are some months that I know that those operating expenses are going to increase. For instance, at the end of the year, I know I have firm license renewal. I know I have CPA license renewal. I know I have professional liability insurance renewal. I have general liability insurance renewal. So I know that my typical expenses from January to October aren't going to be the same from October to December. However, because I do budgeting, I know that those things are coming, and my budget helps me to plan for those things. Another thing I want to mention about budgeting is that it requires discipline. The number one reason why budgeting fails is because people lack discipline. It's not because you can't do it. It's not because you don't make enough money. It's not because everything is high. It's because you lack discipline. Trust me, if you want to get something done, you'll do it. I'll give you an example. Jordan releases the same shoes every couple of years. But somehow, I have no idea how y'all do it, but y'all make sure that no matter when he releases them, you already have a pair of shoes. You make sure that your name is in the raffle and that you get a pair every time. Why? Because you are disciplined to get those Jordans. You have to take that same discipline and apply it to budgeting. Budgeting can work if you work it. You're on mute.
Since you're talking about it, how do you feel about the paying for options? Because, the Sheins, the Fashion Novas, really everybody, even if you go, I can go buy a MacBook today and they have a paying for option. or
Correct.
have it broken down in like no interest payments, so whatever the case may be. How do you feel about the paying for over the no interest? Because the no interest, we can work with that some, right? But the paying for makes you overspend if anybody ever takes a moment to just look back at it.
Exactly. So I will say this: if it's a no interest option, absolutely go for it. Why? Because it allows you to extend what we call cash flow. Why would I pay a bill in full now if you're giving me the option to pay it in full and there's no interest? That means that the money that I have, I can use it for other things, and I can budget for those other 3 payments that are coming in the next 2 weeks or in the next 3 months, whatever the case may be. Now, in the event that interest comes into play, the question I want you to ask yourself is this: can I buy whatever it is I'm buying 3 times?
Mm.
If you cannot, that means that you cannot afford to buy what you're buying with interest. You can't afford it. And it's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, because we live in a society of instant gratification. We do not believe in delayed gratification in any aspect of the words.
Correct.
So
I'm
it
gonna get
really
a
comes into, your personal discipline.
Yeah.
And I know I hate to keep saying that word. That's really what financial literacy is. The basis is budgeting and discipline. If you don't master budgeting and discipline, you can forget about credit, taxes, life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, and estate planning, because your foundation has not been set and it's not stable. So you have to be able to master this part of it, which is budgeting and discipline, which is the building blocks of financial literacy.
I almost didn't come off mute again, but that's good. That's really good. Because when I think on my own spending, I've gotten better. One of the things that I made sure I did this month, well, starting in 2025, you had the no spend challenges for
Mm-hmm.
January, and I have things sitting in my Amazon cart that I haven't touched because I was like, you know what? Truthfully, I don't need it. It's just
Absolutely.
I don't need it right now. I can get
Absolutely.
it
My
later.
Amazon card is $5,000 right now. You can't tell me I ain't getting what's in there.
Listen, are there any apps that you recommend for establishing a budget? I know some people create spreadsheets, but are there apps that you can use?
Absolutely. So that goes back to the question you asked me about setting up bank accounts. Your banks actually have built-in features where you can actually set up a budget depending on who you're banking with. But outside of that, I would recommend Origin. Origin is a good app. Mint is a good app. Money Monitor is a good app. What's some other apps that I've used or that I've known people to use? I mentioned Mint already, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, Mint is good. Those are my top 3: Mint, Origin, and Money Monitor.
Yeah, and then if you have a Redstone account, like you said, Redstone does have a built-in budgeting feature. I stumbled across it one day. I haven't used it in a long time, but it'll sure tell you pretty quickly where it's going. And it's
Absolutely.
it's automatically set up your account, so it really shows you how frivolous we can be sometimes. So
Absolutely.
that's what made me cut back on eating out. I didn't realize how that looked on that budget, but that's a good one. You said Mint, Origin,
and Money Monitor.
Money monitoring. Okay, good deal. How you said something about your budget sometimes changing on a month-to-month basis, just depending, being in business for yourself. That's what that looks like.
Right.
But for those who, I'll say like myself, I work a 9 to 5. So how I work for somebody else. That's just what it is. It's really not fun now, but we're not going to get into that. But when it comes to managing a budget, when you do have a traditional 9 to 5 job, or even as an entrepreneur, because everybody's finances are different, how often would you recommend that someone reviews their budget?
Monthly, at a minimum. You need to be looking at your budget monthly. And I would even go so far as to say bi-monthly. And the reason I say that is, 1, you should be looking at the budget to set it up. 2, you should be looking at the budget to see whether you are in budget or out of budget. So you need to be looking at it twice every month, to set it and to review it.
You know what? That explains. So my planner has a has a money management feature, and it does have a spot at the end where you can review kind of where your account started and where it ended. So that's a very
Mhm.
that's
Right,
so
because if you don't review it, you don't know if your budget is good, bad, good or busted. You have no
right,
idea.
right. That is a very valid point. Um, this one's gonna be fun. When it comes to creating healthy spending habits, because like you said, we are very much on an instant gratification type of lifestyle.
Mhm.
In this climate, how do you create a healthy spending habit? Is there a such thing as a healthy spending?
Absolutely, there is a such thing as a healthy spending habit. And I actually talked about this with an individual that's using us for personal financial coaching. But what one of the things, a couple of things that I told her was one, for your money that you have left over from your budget, which we call is discretionary income, take it out of the bank, keep it on you, because you're more apt to spend money when you're just swiping a card versus
Yeah.
when that money is leaving your hands. It's something about the physicality of money leaving your hands that makes you think, oh snap, I only have 4 bills left. I can't spend money on this because I'm
Hmm.
not gonna have X, Y, and Z. That's one of the things. It's called the envelope method. Take your money out, put it in envelopes. This envelope is for rent. This envelope is for utilities. This envelope is for eating out. This envelope is for whatever, and do that. Another tip that I gave her was when you're getting ready to purchase something, don't give yourself a waiting period of when you want to purchase. So for instance, let's say I'm going to the mall today and I see a handbag that I just have to have. I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm not gonna purchase this handbag. I'm gonna wait 2 weeks and see if I still want to buy it. What that does is it gives you time to actually think about the purchase that you're making. Does this purchase make sense? Is this something that I literally have to have, or can I really live without it? Is this an essential or is this a non essential expense? Are there other things that I could spend my money on that will be more beneficial to me than buying this new Louis Vuitton bag that came? Those things help to curb your instant gratification because impulse buying is one of the many psychological factors that actually plagues people's financial success. And I actually wrote a book about that called Money Mindset, where I go into the different psychological factors that prohibit someone's financial success. Impulse buying is one of the biggest ones, especially among millennials and Black Americans and women. So it really money is really a mindset. A lot of people think, oh, if I have more money, then I can do more things and I can be better. And that is absolutely not true. And I know that not to be true because I studied it and I am a financial expert. This is my industry. This is what I do. What I've learned is that if you have bad money habits now, when you get more money, your money habits are going to multiply. They're not going to all of a sudden get better. Because if you don't know how to do right by the money that you have, how are you going to know how to do right by the money that you get? You're going to do what you already know. So that's why it's important to really evaluate your mindset as it relates to money. Where
Hmm.
did you first learn about money? What was your socioeconomic factors when you were a child? How was your family with money? What did you learn about money? If
Hmm.
you really examine those things and look at how you look at money now, you will definitely be able to see the correlation and be able to heal your money mindset so that you can be well on your way to financial success.
That's real. That
Mhm.
that that. So in that alone, just the lack of understanding on our social economical statuses is really what causes the deficit in
Mhm.
financial literacy, and it's really why I this this one conversation is like pride and joy in my heart because it's just
Mhm.
a lack of knowledge that's really
Absolutely.
all it boils down, and simple things that we don't think about, like what
Mhm.
causes
Mhm.
the overspending and the instant gratification, and why do you feel like you have to have it now when you really don't?
Absolutely.
You're just trying to keep up, but Again.
And I'll even add to that. Just think about your circle of friends, or just your influencer circle. There's people that when they get money, they change.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people that have money, and when they get more money, you really can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
Why is that? Simply because most of the time, people that do not have money growing up, but that come into money, they change because it's something they never had, so they don't know how to act when they get it.
Yeah.
Because they experienced barriers to financial success earlier. So to them, this barrier has been removed. Now I'm a new person. I have a new life. I'm just new altogether. But for people who did not experience that similar financial success, that similar financial barrier earlier, where you had access to credit, you had access to having, your bills paid, everything that you needed, you had, even some of the things you wanted, you had. But what you tend to experience with those people is when they get on their own, they have no sense of boundary because they had access to things already. So they have a sort of like an impulse buying psychological mindset because, hey, I've always had money. So in this situation, I'm going to always have it. I can spend it. I'm going to get it right back. Your childhood experiences and the socioeconomic factors that you experience as a child really have formed how you view money now and why your financial position is today exactly what it is.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Someone on Facebook, I overlooked this one, so my apologies to you. Says some people's money fluctuates if you are a comedian or in the entertainment industry. Your money is based on bookings. How could you help them with this?
So in that case, you have to be extremely disciplined. And I'll say it doesn't matter if you're a comedian or whatever the case may be. If you're an entrepreneur, period, and this goes for me as well, you have to plan as if you're never gonna get another booking. Because what that's gonna do is it's going to help you to use the money that you have wisely versus frivolously. So I know, being a CPA, with our firm, we know what our retainers look like. We know what income is constantly coming in every month. We know what our bare minimum income is coming in every month. And we also know what our bare minimum expenses are. Okay. So what we do is we try to budget under our expectation. That way, when our income exceeds our expectation, we have some wiggle room because we're not living literally to the dollar. We're living literally to maybe 75% under the dollar. That way, if something should happen, somebody misses their retainer, they cancel, or they just go AWOL and we never hear from them again, we're operating at a standard that we could actually withstand it. Yeah. Because we budgeted for it. Whereas my grandma likes to call it counting your chickens before they hatch. Don't count the chicken before it hatches. Count the chickens after it hatches, but plan as if the chicken will not hatch. Yeah. Plan for the worst, hope for the best.
Easy peasy. I mean, it sounds easy, but again, it goes back to that discipline piece. So, but if you're on Facebook and you're just now joining us, first of all, thank you. Second of all, hit that share button. Jasmine is dropping some nuggets and I don't want you to miss it. Jasmine, we do have a question in the comments that asks, can you repeat the title of your book?
The name of the book is called Money Mindset. You can actually go to our website, shfgglobal.com/all product. And you can see all of our digital products that are there, not just the Money Mindset book, but there's other things as well. We also have a Money Mindset evaluation that you can take to figure out what is the psychological factor that is plaguing or prohibiting your financial success.
Boom. That sounds, I'm have to look into that. Because like I said, I'm doing better now, but we are all just one bad decision, as I like to say, from life changing. So
it's so funny that you say that because believe it or not, most Americans are one paycheck from being out of housing, being without lights, being without water, being without gas. One paycheck.
And that's nothing. That's 2 weeks for
That's
somebody.
that's nothing.
Which brings me to my next topic, which is savings. We don't have to go into the different types of savings accounts right now. But I do want to talk about some beginner tips for someone who's trying to save their money and having a rainy day savings account and how much someone should truly have saved. Like what's realistic.
So when I'm doing personal financial coaching with someone, I always tell them a minimum of 3 to 6 months of expenses is what you want to have saved. And the reason I say that is because, especially in today's climate, let's say you wake up tomorrow and you don't have a job. You need to make sure that for the next 3 to 6 months, regardless of you having a job, you're able to take care of your essential expenses. This is why budgeting is important, to know what's essential and what's not, so that you can know at a minimum, every month, at a minimum, I need to make these things to survive. Anything else is discretionary and it's above and beyond. You want to have 3 to 6 month expenses saved. And to be honest with you, research shows that less than 90%, less than 10% of people have at least $1,000 saved. At least 1,000. Less than 10% of people in the United States.
I'm just doing the math because when you said that you can literally wake up one day and not have a job, if nothing else is a sobering reminder that that can happen to anybody.
Absolutely.
Just like right now, that's currently
that is happening.
That's happening right now.
It is
for
happening.
People who, essentially were taught to have job security. So I'm just throwing that out there because what I don't want to happen is for anybody to get on this live and not have that takeaway that things can literally change at the drop of a dime unexpectedly. And if you're not saving and properly managing your money now, you're going to be in for a hard time in the next 30 days. It might not even take that long. We really don't know. And so
it's not even that long.
Yeah, it's not. It's
it's a harsh reality.
Yeah.
It's harsh reality.
Let's talk about debt and credit for a second. Because I want to make sure we don't run out of time. So first of all, let's just go back to the basics and explain what debt and credit is.
So credit is borrowing money with a promise to pay it back. That's all credit is. When you borrow money from someone, when you obtain credit from someone, you are now in debt to that creditor, the person that you borrowed the money from. So that's the difference between what credit and what debit, what credit and what debt actually is. They're both really the same things. One is just a matter of credit is what you're getting. Debt is what you have once you get credit.
Is there a such thing? Absolutely. Is there a such thing as a lack of credit being bad credit?
Absolutely. Not having credit at all is in the minds of consumers is bad credit, because you don't have any track record to show. What is your track record of paying back what you've borrowed? You don't have that to show because you haven't borrowed anything from anybody. So having no credit is just as bad as having bad credit.
What are some responsible ways to build credit?
One of the ways, especially for our college students, I always tell them this, and I actually just had this exact same conversation with my first cousin who's getting ready to go to A&M in the fall. Is to become an authorized user on your parents or someone you trust credit accounts. Now, I use those words very lightly. Your parents or someone you trust. The reason I say that is because if who you trust has a bad credit score already, You don't want to be an authorized user on their accounts, because what they do is it basically creates a copy on your credit report. You
Right.
want someone, one, that has a perfect payment history, meaning they paid all of their bills on time. Two, you want someone that has a great credit mix, meaning that they have different types of credit on their credit report. They have revolving credit, they have installment credit, and then they have charge credit. Those are the three different types of credit that you can have. You want to be able to be an authorized user on someone who has a good credit mix. You also want to be an authorized user on someone's accounts who have a good credit length, credit history. The longer credit history someone has, the better, because that means that you have a history of borrowing from people for a long period of time, and this is a great measure of whether or not you can actually be trusted. People can actually look at that and see how have you done over the years with the people that you borrowed from by looking at your credit history. So being an authorized user is always the number one way. I always tell people, if you don't have credit at all, find somebody you trust to be an authorized user on their credit.
You spoke on the different types of credit,
Mhm.
the revolving, charge, and installment.
Correct.
Go into those a little bit more.
Sure. So your installment credit, the one thing that comes to mind for those of you that get the iPhone every time it comes out and you don't pay it in full, they just add it as a payment plan on your phone. That's installment credit. That's exactly what installment credit is. Charge credit. If you have, I'm telling on myself, if you have a Victoria's Secret card, that is considered charge credit, meaning you can only charge purchases from that specific store to that specific card. There are some instances where you have a charge card where you actually have to pay that card off in full every month. So for business owners, if you have a gas card through Corpay or through FleetCor, that is a charge card, meaning whatever your balance is at the end of the month, you're responsible for paying the entire balance the next month. That is what charge credit is, and that's what distinguishes it from revolving credit. Revolving credit, you can have some department store cards like Victoria's Secret where you can charge, a certain amount this month, and you don't have to pay it off in full the next month. They just give you a minimum payment that you have to pay in order for the card to be in good standing. So your charge cards are going to require the whole balance paid. Your revolving credit is going to require a minimum payment made. And then your installment payments is going to be those things that you pay over time. For instance, whether you know it or not, if you've never realized that people run a background check to open up utilities, lights, water, gas,
Mm-hmm.
the reason they're doing that is because that is a charge credit account. You pay what you use in full the next month. That is a type of installment credit.
Okay. And another fun fact, for those who ever want to be homeowners, they look for 3 lines of credit. And so you need to know all of that if you
Absolutely.
ever have intentions of becoming a homeowner, because if you don't have 3 lines of credit, you cannot get approved for a house until you do. And that's even for the people who don't like to have credit cards. You need that line of credit to
Right.
work in your favor. You don't have to go crazy with it, but
It's all about discipline.
is necessary. Yes. What was I going to ask you? Because you said something and I lost it. I didn't write it down. I wrote down the other things. But we'll just go into this. How can I make my credit work for me?
Of course. One of the ways that people are making credit work for them now, and I'll use myself as a personal example. Because I have a certain personal credit, I'm able to get business credit. I'm able to get business loans to help fund my business. So even though I may not make $1 million in my business this year, I do have the ability to go and get business funding so I can put that funding towards things to further my business's operations, to increase my revenue so that I can actually grow in my business, but at the same time, I'm able to pay that business funding back as well. So a lot of people, and this is just a free nugget, a lot of people think, oh, I got a business, I got an LLC, I'm about to go get some funding now. Let me tell you this, if your personal credit is shot, you can hang them business credit funding dreams up. And the reason I say that is because when you first start a business, you don't already have business credit. So they rely on your personal credit as a personal guarantee, which is called PG. They're looking at your personal credit to see how have you paid your personal creditors. They're not just going to give you $50,000 because you got a new LLC. They're not.
Right.
They're looking at your personal credit. So that's one of the ways that you're able to use your personal credit. You can use it as a leg up to extend your business credit. Another way people use their credit to make it work for them is they have superb personal credit, which allows them to go out and get funding for investment properties. And they're able to, rehab those investment properties, put them out on the market for rent or for sale. And then they're able to recoup not just the loan back for those investment properties, but they also are able to receive a profit on top of that if they price their investment properties correctly. So that's another way that you can use your credit to make it work for you. Use, we call it OPM, other people's money. Use other people's money to create money for you.
That's how those who do not look like us create wealth.
That's exactly how they do it.
Little do you know it. What can a line of credit benefit? How can a line of credit benefit you?
So I'll use homeownership for example. What people don't know is that you can actually have a line of credit on your home. It's called a home equity loan. I'll use myself for example. I'm open book. I don't really gatekeep it all. But when I bought my home, I had $1,500 in equity in my home. Now I have almost $200,000. What I could do is I could go and I could get a line of credit on that $200,000, which is equity in my home, and I can use that $200 for whatever I want. Now, in doing that, what it does, it creates what's called a second mortgage, and it makes your mortgage payment go up. Now, if I take that money and I do something productive with it, such as I go and get an investment property, or I do some upgrades to the current home that I have to rent it out, I'm making that equity work for me. Or if I decided, you know what, I'm gonna get the equity out of the home, pay off all of my debt, so now I only have one bill every month, which is my mortgage. I've made the credit work for me. And people are like, well, how could that be possible? Why would you want your mortgage payment to be so high? Well, the thing about it is you, with your mortgage loan, you have one interest rate. With your credit card, you have multiple.
Correct.
So if I can use my home equity line of credit to pay off all the debt that I have and create one bill that may be high, but I have a 2% interest rate, I'm winning.
That is a very valid
I'm
point.
winning.
That is such a valid point.
Absolutely. So you can definitely make your credit work for you.
I'd say the only caveat I think to that is like not being able to beat the current rate that I have. That's the only issue.
Yeah, my rate is set. I got a 2% interest rate. So I'm good. I ain't really looking for nothing else.
Listen. Mine is like a 2.765 or something. So where I'm like, interest rates now like 4 or 5%, maybe 7. I don't do that. But how does that work if you have paid off your home?
Excuse me. So if you paid off your home, that's even better. That means you don't already have a mortgage. But that does not mean that you can't use the equity in your home to do exactly what I said. Pay off debt, go out and buy another property, whatever the case may be. In the event that you do that, at that point, you're creating another mortgage. You're creating a mortgage on your home.
Okay.
Yeah. So the thing about it is, and I'll say this, the biggest mistake that we make as African Americans is we use credit to buy things that do not generate us any income or revenue. We're using our credit to go buy Louis bags, new cars, rollies, necklaces, things that have things that don't appreciate in value. So the things that we're using debt to buy aren't helping us. So we're getting further in debt. The key to using credit is you want to use your credit on something that is going to create revenue. If it doesn't create revenue, you don't need to be using credit to buy it.
Which brings me to my Next question. Under what circumstances should I borrow money?
I always tell people if you can't pay it off 3 times, don't borrow it.
What about in terms of a house or a car? Things that
Well, that's different because those things, a house creates revenue because it appreciates in value. However,
Mhm.
a car does not. A car depreciates in value. So again, this goes back to what is important to you, what is essential and what is not. I can drive around a 2007 Pontiac G6 that ain't got a note on it and be perfectly fine with it.
Mhm.
But I know that my home that I bought for $195,000 6-7 years ago is now fitting, almost $400,000 worth. I can take some debt to get some money.
Yeah.
I can do that. Same thing with people talk about student loans. Should I take out student loan? And I always tell people, one, take out only what you need. A lot of
Mhm.
people like to get refund checks. If you know you're not good with money, please only take out what you need.
You blow through it in a couple of weeks.
You're blowing through it. Take out
If
what
that,
you need because in my instance, what I took out in student loans for my master's, I had already made that, but before I took it out. I had already made that in my career. So I knew that it was a good decision for me to do. I've made it back multiple times over. If you're going to take out student loans, make sure that you are taking it out in a field where you can make it back. And this
in a
is no knock to anybody, but I wouldn't take out, a loan to be, an artist. I just wouldn't. I
no,
personally wouldn't. And I don't knock that because, I have family members who aspire to be artists. And that's great. I just wouldn't do it.
it's risky.
It is very risky.
It's
I
a
wouldn't
risk.
take out a student loan to do it. I would pursue it, but I would not do it under student loans.
Yeah. Is there a such thing as good and bad debt?
Absolutely. Good debt. Buying a home, student loans, those are considered good debt. Credit cards, revolving credit, charge credit, installment credit, that is not considered good debt. The good debt, buying a home, student loans. It's good debt.
What are some good ways to eliminate debt? You hear a lot about, well, some people, I'll say I've heard a lot about the snowball method and doing that. But what if that doesn't fit someone's
So,
finances? What other
so
good way?
there's a lot of ways to eliminate debt. Of course, snowball method is one of the biggest ones, but the opposite of that is the avalanche method. Okay. You can actually do the snowball method in many different ways. For instance, the snowball method could apply to where I'm going to pay off my smallest balances first. That's the snowball method. You could also take that same method and say, I'm going to pay off the cards with the smallest interest rate first. Whereas with the avalanche method, it's the complete opposite. I'm going to pay off my balances with the highest balance first. I'm going to pay off my balances with the highest interest rate first. It's literally one is going up, one is going down. Those are two of the most popular methods that I would say as it relates to paying off debt. But I would also encourage people that are looking to pay off debt to consolidate the debt into one loan. I will say that having personal loans on your credit report, they're called consumer loans. They don't really look good to a creditor. However, if you have 20 credit cards that all have different interest rates, and you can go and get a personal loan with a 7% interest rate, take that money, pay off all those cards, and just pay that personal loan back. A 7% interest loan is better than 10 or 15 cars with interest rates between 20 and 35% any
Listen,
day.
it'll take you out. It will take you out.
And most of the time, the reason people are struggling is because they're paying their minimum payment on their credit cards every month. And 9 times out of 10, the minimum payment that you're paying only covers the interest.
This interest, and it's like a black hole.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Absolutely.
big black hole. Debt to credit ratio. Let's talk about it. What is it? What does it need to look like?
So there's the debt to credit ratio, there's the debt to income ratio. The debt to income ratio is what your mortgage lenders are looking at to determine how much debt do you have compared to your income, and can you manage to take on the debt of this mortgage. Debt to credit is also looking at the debt that you've incurred versus the amount of credit you have. For instance, I'll use a credit card for example. If you have a $2,000 credit card limit and you have $1,000 charged on it, your debt to credit ratio is 50%. It's not great. That means that for every dollar of debt that you have, every dollar of credit that you have a dollar of debt. You don't want that. You want your debt to credit ratio to be smaller, just as well as you want your debt to income ratio to be small as well. You always want to have more income and more credit than you do debt, because it shows a level of responsibility and it shows how trustworthy you are. Can people trust you to pay back what you borrowed? That's all credit is. Are you trustworthy? And it's so funny you bring that up, because, and I know this may sound like really anal, but one of the things I ask people that want to get close to me, whether a romantic relationship or whatever the case may be, I ask them what their credit score is. Why? Because I want to know if people can trust you. It doesn't matter. I'm not looking to see if you have money or anything. I'm looking to see how trustworthy you are.
Yeah.
That's all your credit score tells you, how trustworthy you are.
They're probably like, why is she asking me that?
They do.
People are scared to
They
talk
do. They do. And I'm perfectly okay with it.
But yeah, a lot of people are really, it's a touchy.
Yeah, what's your credit score?
Yeah, it can be a touchy subject, but again, if it is a touchy subject, it goes back to that trust factor. So,
but it's also the number one reason why people divorce: finances. Yeah. It's the number one reason for divorce. So before we even get into all these, rah-rah, let's go on and cut to the chase. What's your credit score?
Oh, that's funny. I just think
it's a good point of view
about how it plays out in real life. Like, you know what? That would set some people
straight. Got a lot of people.
So as we prepare to kind of wind things down, if you have any additional questions or comments about anything, please feel free to drop them in the comments. I'm checking the comments on Zoom and I'm checking the comments on Facebook as well, going back and forth between the two. So if you have anything lingering on your mind, no matter whether we talked about it right now or not, just go ahead and ask us while you have the platform to do so, because this is your opportunity to do so without a cost to you. Now, at the end, as we wrap up, I am going to ask Jasmine to give everybody her information so that you can jot that down and build upon what she's already told you in a personal call or consultation or whatever that process looks like. So if you have something that's kind of picking at your brain, now is the time for you to get that out while you can, because anything after, we dismiss from this call is not... Is it your
$400 an hour?
It's at your expense. So if somebody's wanting to further their financial wellness, increase their financial literacy, if you will, what are some good ways where they can do that? And because we don't like to read.
We don't. And the thing that I would tell you to do is read.
That's why I had to lead with that.
The reason I say that is because, of course, the first thing we do is, I'm going to go follow this person on social media. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. There are so many social media gurus out here that can't tell you how to spend $1. Okay. Mm-hmm. They got 100,000 followers and they're in debt. Okay. You need to read for yourself. One of the books that I always recommend to people as relates to finances is 2 books, actually. One, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's one of the financial books I recommend. And then number 2, Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich. You gotta read. Like I said, there's a lot of people have become famous on social media for absolutely nothing.
And it's just sound bites because
And it's literally just sound bites. And I'll be honest with you, from what I've seen, a lot of people aren't necessarily saying the wrong things. They're just not telling you the full story.
Right.
So it's very sensationalized advice. Those people that know me, that are watching here, people know me. I don't sugarcoat anything. I'm gonna tell you what's real and raw, straight from the jump. I'm gonna tell you what's good about it, and I'm gonna tell you what's bad about it, and then I'm gonna let you make your decision. That's what you want to look for when you're looking up to someone as it relates to your financial literacy journey. One, you want to see if they're living what they're telling you. And when I say that, I don't mean, oh God, they drive a G-Wagon, I'ma follow her because she got money. You have no idea that she's leasing that G-Wagon and she's losing money by the month. You have no idea. So looking at someone and what they have materialistically is not a good way to vet somebody as to whether you should follow them for financial literacy advice. What you need to be looking for is reviews from that person. How have they helped everyday people who don't have the money to lease a G-Wagon? How have they helped them? What did they actually help them do? The things that they're putting out on social media, are they just bait to get you to buy this and buy that? Or is what they are giving you actually helpful? It's not I gotta buy this in order to get more information. I gotta do this to get more information. What are they giving you that has proved to be a viable resource in your life that you can actually testify to the results? That's the biggest thing. Read and verify. Read and verify. And I know that may sound real rigid to people, but I come from federal government. I worked in 11 and a half years. Majority of those years, I was an auditor. What auditing taught me was to trust what people are saying, but verify.
That is the number one line.
Trust but verify.
Every single time.
Don't trust nothing. You can't verify. If you cannot verify it, you cannot trust it.
Correct.
And I know that has created some strife for me in my personal life, but it is true.
It is true.
Trust but verify.
Ain't failed me yet.
Trust but verify.
Failed me yet. We do have a question that says, the first part of the conversation was missed, but can we hit on the bank versus the credit union again?
Yes.
If there's one that's better than the other.
Your commercial banks are owned by corporations, businesses, people. Whereas your credit union is actually owned by the members itself. You're going to get better interest rates from a credit union than you are from a commercial bank. Why? Because with the credit union, credit unions actually pay out dividends to its members. Whereas commercial banks are looking to make money to line their own pockets. So your credit unions are always going to be better than your banks. But I also recommend having a commercial bank and a credit union, both. You need to have a relationship with both of those so that when you are in the process of financing anything, you're able to compare rates. But 9 times out of 10, your credit union's rate is going to be better than your commercial bank.
And nobody been able to beat my Redstone rates.
I still have my Redstone account, and I've been gone from unsealed for 10 years.
Listen, can't nobody beat it. Can't nobody beat it.
Right.
They can't join them. They can't beat it.
Absolutely. Redstone and Navy Federal, Delta Credit Community, swear by them.
I've never heard of Delta Credit Community.
So that's here in Georgia.
Okay.
It's here in Atlanta.
While we're on this, because we have the Redstones and we have the Navy Federals, but what would be, because I know like for where my mom is, they have a credit union, but for the areas that may not have one, what would you recommend? Because you may have some areas that just they only have access to corporate banks.
So in situations like that, 9 times out of 10, and I'm speaking from personal experience. I'm from Jackson, Alabama, which is the hour of Mobile. You probably never heard of it, probably never hear of it again. We have one, I think maybe one or two credit unions down there. But for the people that don't use those one or two credit unions, they go to the next city over, which is Mobile, and they get a credit union there. Whatever you got to do to get one, do it. Do it. I would definitely say that. And the thing about that is, if you're having to go to a credit union that is not local to you, make sure that that credit union has online banking access so that you don't have to go to the bank and do everything.
Yeah. Let me make sure I'm not missing any more questions.
Okay.
I think we're good to go. And I'll say this before I close up. This is your last opportunity. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to drop them in the comments, whether you are on Facebook or on Instagram, even if you're just hopping in late. Once we are getting ready to wrap up, but this live will be available to you on my personal Facebook after we wrap up. So just go back, scroll through and watch it, because we definitely don't want you to miss the information that's being given to you. And so hit the share button, tag somebody in the comments, whatever it is that you need to do to help us get the word across. Because at the end of the day, financial literacy is a very, 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 very important topic, not only in today's climate, given the swift changes that are happening each and every time we blink, but it's the reality of our lives that we need to be financially literate in order to survive what is to come. And you need to have the different resources and tools and access to the information that helps you in that area of life. And so do not sleep on what is being said to you. Life can literally change in the blink of an eye right about now. That's always been the case, but it's even more of the case now. So hit the like button, hit the share button, tag those that you know that could use the information in the comments. I don't want to mispronounce it, Dominique, so you're going to have to shameless plug that one out loud.
Avadian Credit Union.
All right. Avabian Credit Union is another Alabama-based credit union that we have access to. I know they have offices in Birmingham and in Huntsville, and I'm sure even more than that. So that's another option for a credit union if you want to check them out and you are in the Alabama area. And so Jasmine, please tell the people how they can find you, how they can reach you, how they can get in touch with you if they are needing your services and your assistance in any shape, form, or fashion.
Absolutely. So you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter at Your Family CPA. That's Your Family CPA. You can also find me on Facebook at Facebook and LinkedIn, Jasmine S. Young.
Website
is going to be FHFGglobal.com. That's Southern Heritage Financial Group Global.com. And I dropped all of that in the chat.
And then can you tell us about that good old book one more time?
Yes, Money Mindset. If you are looking to purchase my Money Mindset ebook or any of my digital products, feel free to go to shfgglobal.com /category/all products. And if you're looking for the ebook, Money Mindset ebook specifically, it's the same web address with Money Mindset at the end. I dropped that in the chat as well.
Okay. And I'll make sure I go back and drop those on the good old Book of the Face as well. Mm-hmm. And I'll do that now so that I do not forget, which gives you a little more time to ask questions if you have them. Because after that, first of all, I just want to give you your kudos and your flowers and to say thank you, because you have held it down like a G, my girl, and I appreciate it.
I try. Like I said, I'm not the most popular, but I do what I can.
People who tend to be more, what is the word I want to use? I'm not afraid to say it like they feel it, because we are in a climate where sugarcoating and just being too truthful can be viewed as being harsh. And at the end of the day, the truth will be the truth. The truth is always going to be the truth. And whether or not we want to hear it and be accepting of it, it won't change the fact that it is still the
The
truth.
truth.
I
Yes,
am
ma'am.
dropping those links in the comments so that everybody knows where to find you. And I'll reiterate that if you are joining us a little at the tail end of things, you are more than welcome to still go back and watch this live. After we conclude, it will still be available to you. I am not going to rip it off. And as a matter of fact, I need to do my due diligence and making sure I um, put it on my YouTube. We've been slacking there, but nonetheless, of course, I want to thank you all so very much. And thank you for supporting this conversation and for being available. I was like this close to like, you know what, we'll just push it back to February, but I'm glad that I went ahead. I'm glad that you reached out to me. I'm glad that I went ahead and moved forward because the conversation is just it's more timely than what I knew it would be. And so thank you for spending because you are an hour ahead of me. So it
Yeah.
is 8:14. It might be your bedtime. So thank you for
Honey, I don't know if you saw me yawning or not, but I'm like, Auntie, it's time.
Listen, but thank you for sacrificing a
Of
hour
course.
15 minutes of your time on this lovely day. I will
Of
be in
course.
touch. I definitely appreciate it. And you've done an
Oh,
amazing job
thank
sharing all
you.
that you know. You are great at what you do.
Thank
Continue to do what
you.
you do and continue to serve our Black and brown because we need it.
Definitely
Even
will.
if we can be in denial about the things we need sometimes, we need it. And so I need
Absolutely.
it. I'm not perfect. I have my own spending issues I need to work out of my life, but we're gonna do better and we're gonna do better together. And so
Absolutely.
you have joined us. I thank you so very much for attending our first installment of the Educate and Elevate Workshop Series for 2025. We will have more to come. So make sure you are following us at the Potts Foundation on all platforms. We can be found on Facebook and Instagram. I do not do the Twitter thing, not Twitter or TikTok as it pertains to the nonprofit page. It's just too much to manage. But on good old Facebook and on Instagram, you can find us at the Potts Foundation. We are also in the process of getting our website up and running, and the address for that is going to be www.thepottsfoundation.org. And so we will be glad to have you over on there as well. Subscribe to our email list whenever that pops up so that when we have more workshops of this nature or even just any information, because I am going to be more conscious about just blogging and sharing resources such as you, Jasmine. And so subscribe to all those things and we will see you on the next time. But thank you so much for joining us. Please hit that share button and please make sure that you go back and watch this at any given time. I'm going to go back and watch it because having to host it and listen at the same time can be a little difficult, but there are some things that you shared that I want to make sure I go back and look into. And so please do your due diligence. Everybody be financially aware and have a amazing night. And thank you so much.